boggling, but I was highly skeptical. So I said,
Pleasures of the Fur, it was called.
Yeah, Pleasures of the Fur, yeah. So anyway, and my husband, who was a pediatrician, tried to look that study up when he was at the hospital one day, and the system shut down. Let him look at stuff like that. So anyway, I was like intrigued by the idea. I was skeptical that it could possibly be true what they said. I teach at community college, there's no research budget, there's no expectations for me. Like if I'm doing my job well, if I do no research, I'm still doing my job well. So I thought this would be kind of a low budget way to do research, you know, just simple surveys kind of thing. And also I hate to see people like misrepresented, taken advantage of, you know, all that kind of stuff, sort of like crusading, kind of like what's the truth. And also, as well as a social psychologist and anthrozoologist, that's a person that studies human-animal relations. So if you think about the idea of people being really intrigued by other species of animals, it's sort of a natural fit. So, and the other piece of the answer is at that point, there's really no research on fandoms at all. It was just an unstudied thing. So, like, how cool is it to be the first person in the world to say, you studied furries? So, my children, what are you doing sitting there? Oh, here, this is your seat of honor. We were just entertaining the folks till you arrived.
You were doing such a good job.
Thank you. It's a professional answer. Yeah. We thought you'd bring wine, so we put a table out.
Oh, the only problem is, in order to have an alcoholic beverage in here, it has to be purchased from the convention center.
And they don't sell it.
Oh, they do.
Oh, they do.
I had 6 bottles on the contract in the green room, and alkali got them. I'm waiting for 6 more bottles.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. You might want to take the lens cap. I will.
Oh, no, I don't know.
You were indeed the first person.
I was, and only because, and so we don't really have an agenda for this little session, but I thought it would be interesting for you all to know how we all got together. So, you know, as I was saying, I had heard about these people, about the furries kind of thing, because a different researcher, academic, had asked, does anybody know anything? And I thought, what's wrong with you? You looked it up, and I found out there was nothing to look up. And, you know, a few years went by, and I had a student who was a furry. And I had kind of learned a little about furries and furry art and that kind of thing. And this kid was an artist, and he brought his portfolio one day to visit my office mate, and who wasn't there. And he said, do you want to see my work? And I said, sure, because it'd be rude to say no. And he opened his portfolio, and I said, wow, that looks like furry art. And he said, oh my God, you know what that is? And then he said, I'm a furry. And I said, oh my God, I finally met one! So anyway, he kind of inspired me to move forward. And he was a little out of touch reality kind of character. And he said, do you think our college would send me to a furry convention? And he was graduating before the con, like 6 months before the con. And I said, why would they do that? And he said, because I really like to go. That's not how it works, kid. And anyways, and then we looked and we found out at that very time that Anthrocon was moved to Pittsburgh. And I said, we're in Niagara Falls. That's like less than 4 hours away. I mean, it can't get much more convenient. I said, well, maybe we could go and be like the first people to do research, right? And of course, that required all kinds of hoops to jump through. And one of the hoops was you need to have the permission of the convention. So I had to look up Dr. Conway. And I said, well, you know, he's a professional, scientific kind of person. So he will surely understand, you know. And this was back when I think a lot of the media stuff about furries was not nice. And he's, you know, I had to convince him I wasn't up to no good, which was fair. That was fair. And then, you know, being the intelligent, thoughtful person he is, he said, no, intelligent? And he said to me, you know, no one's going to take your survey, but you can come if you want. And I said, that could be an empirical question. It'd be like that kind of terminology. And then he said, well, you know, even if they do take your survey, it's going to be a selective sample. And I said, yeah, that's how our stuff works. We know that, you know. And then he said, and this was like priceless, and my husband was a chemistry major. He said, well, you know, something like I never really had to worry about the molecules in my work deciding not to participate. And I thought, yeah, maybe that's why I didn't really get chemistry, because I was worried about the molecules like getting along or something like that. So, you know, 2006, sadly I couldn't attend. I had to be at Stanford for my middle kid's PhD ceremony. I couldn't say, honey, I'm going to a furry convention, not your graduation. So I didn't really get to experience the wonder that is Anthrocon from 2007. But the first year we had about 220 participants, which was good, very good, considering we expected 0, which is why we don't have expectation. And we've just been here every year since then, and every year we have to go through your beloved gatekeeper to get permission. And we also have to go through what has become an increasingly insane Board of Ethics and Dr. Roberts, Waterloo University in Ontario. So, you know, that's been a long time.
IRB is a 4-letter word.
Yes, it might be 2 4-letter words.
In this particular line of work, there's a little hazing ritual called the Institutional Review Board. You need to make sure that your work is ethical, you're dealing with human subjects, they don't want to recreate that prison experiment or anything like that. That's the IRB. The IRB used to be made up of, like, the older professors back in the 60s when they first implemented these things. Well, today they still have those same professors, and they're really crotchety, and probably, you know, forgetful, because you send them the stuff and they write back, oh, we wrote like, and then you have to write back, yes, but none of that is actually in the research. Did you look at it? And that's pretty much how it works.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it works.
Or they're not even researchers. They're people that have never done research and don't understand.
It's like it comes back, you know, the IRB, so we're going to change this, we don't agree with this, signed Earl, the guy from the Louvre rack.
That's what it feels like.
You know, I've always tried to be on the first end of exploring new ways of doing things, and you see we've got a lot of social media outreach stuff that we're trying to build now for awareness of our research. Most researchers expect people to read their papers, and we know that people just don't do that. So we're trying to take what we've been doing for, well, what Dr. D started 13 years ago, and bring it to the public in a palatable form. So our initial name still is the International Anthropomorphic Research Project, and that's quite a mouthful. So the First Science rebrand is something to make people go, oh, right, I can remember that one. But you know, so we've done a lot of that kind of thing. But early days when I was trying to do a study online, I got rejected from the IRB because no one had actually done it before.
The International Anthropomorphic Research
Project. Art. It sounds like what it is.
So it's YARP. YARP. We would make it the International Anthropomorphic Research Foundation. It's the YARP. That's my contribution.
Thank you. No, he's an author on our first paper.
Which surprised me.
Yes, you.
Yeah, I know. Okay, that's exactly how you go. No. She said you get a publication now. Okay, but no one's going to take your survey.
Just in case.
I'm sorry?
Did you jockey for position in the names?
He was last.
I got to tell you though, as an academic, and I've seen all kinds of people, and academics can be odd ducks. But this group of people that I've had the privilege of working with over the last half-decade plus are the most collaborative, awesome people that one could ever ask to work for. And the vast vast majority of the people on the team, this has been a secondary interest for them. Like Dr. G's job is teaching. She does this because she loves it. Her summer that she's supposed to spend relaxing, she's spending creating all of this, all these research projects and working on this stuff and coding dream data.
So the coding was in the winter.
When we talk about authorship, it's really funny because you have people who will fight over authorship, and there's battles at the university, and there's ethics boards that get involved in different levels. And we're, our team is, well, I'll take last. No, I'll take last. I'll take last off. No, it's fine. Whatever. It's really super. It's really incredible as the people that we're working with.
I'd like to ask, because I'm sure everybody pretty much sitting in this room is here with a singular purpose. You've been conducting this research for a very, very long time. You've got a very large data set.
Oh, yes.
And you have been able to identify trends and perhaps even draw at least tentative conclusions. What these folks would like to know is, are we indeed crazy?
No.
No, absolutely not.
Are you sad?
Well, to a degree, yes.
Sorry.
Expound on that. What have you learned about furries?
Like, Kathy, go first.
Well, we learned for sure that the majority are guys. That's for
With
sure.
the exception of the ones that are not.
Right. So 80% in that ballpark, guys. We don't know why. We would love to know. We had a little excursion into that hypothesis, which was wrong. What do you want to believe?
She's looking up the data.
I'm actually going to give you a really precise
Okay.
answer.
Well, anyway, when I said a few years ago, we're like, I really want to know why it's mostly guys, and Dr. Roberts said it's the porn. This is how our research meetings go. What? Yeah, it's the porn. I don't get it. Anyway, I don't go to the X-rated part of the art gallery either, so this old baby. Anyway, so we had some project. It's not the porn. So, yay. But anyway, yeah, so we found out it wasn't the porn. We found out some really fun stuff, like a lot of people that have a persona, it's kind of like their ideal self. It helps them sometimes save more, like, I'll just give an example, I have a persona. I don't know that. I'm not really furry, but I have a persona.
You're a furry.
That's what they tell me. It's okay.
I'm not a furry, but I have a person and a persona. You're a furry!
Anyway, the first time I wore my fursuit at Anthrocon, I watched a video of me in the fursuit parade, and I was like, who's that person dancing? I don't dance. I don't kind of even dance at places where you're supposed to dance, because it just feels so uncomfortable. And there I am, dancing in my fursuit in the parade. I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. So, I mean, we know that personas are kind of like a good thing. Yeah.
Just a quick answer to the one question. Stephen Rayson, Dr. Rayson down in Texas A&M, just published a paper, and I just wanted to make sure I got the results perfectly correct. This one looked at anime fans, bronies, and furries, and compared them to population levels, and anime fans, bronies, and furries all show lower rates of mood and anxiety disorders than the rest of the general population.
Oh yeah. I'm afraid for the general population.
Being a fandom, it's an adaptive thing. As a social psychologist, we know that people are comfortable with those that are similar to others. And finding a group whose norms are to be, open and accepting and anti-bullying and all that kind of stuff it makes people want to be there, and it makes them feel better.
There are higher rates of ADHD and autism. I think that's probably no surprise. We're actually starting to engage in that kind of research now. So one of the people that we brought on as a collaborator is Dr. Elizabeth Fine. She's here doing studies. We're going to do a focus group on autism, but we also have an independent study on autism available. Listen to this plug, available for research on forscience.com, so /participate. Study number 5. And if you want to participate in that, but we are exploring those kinds of things. Ultimately, for me, just to answer the question, I've always just been really fascinated with the identity elements, the persona component of what furries do. is fantastic. So, I mean, I look at transition to adulthood as a, at population levels, and I see how young people in general really struggle to figure out who they are as adults. Well, the persona and the process of engaging in practicing idealized versions of self in most cases seems to be incredibly beneficial to identity resolution, which is correlated with all kinds of well-being outcomes, including mental health. And so it's fascinating for me to take a look at a group like the furries, and anime fans, and fantasy sport fans, your favorite group of people, and compare those outcomes, and furries actually do significantly better on these kinds of outcomes.
There's a gentleman over here who either has a question or his deodorant is not dry.
You mentioned that the fandom is mostly guys. Have you noticed any that, as the survey has been going on, has it been, has more women been joining the fandom?
I think a little more, but I mean, all we have to go on is whoever's participating.
Right.
But I mean, just kind of by casual observation, it looks like there are more.
Yeah, I think so. And one of the other things that I've noticed is that the greater presence of transgender and non-binary people. It's grown. When we started doing this work and documenting a number of years back, it was about 2 to 3%, and in our latest studies, we're running 11, 12%.
Wow. You had mentioned you were telling some findings in there. I have still seen, not studies per se, but professionals who have written off Furry Fandom as harmful as escapism. How did you address that?
I wish Nuka were on his way home from Australia, because he's looked at fantasy. So in the kind of scientific literature, for some reason, fantasy is kind of seen as a negative thing. And we have approached it from the question of, can't it also be a positive?
Yeah, his dissertation work was all about that. So Nuka is definitely our fantasy expert. I think in terms of, I mean, we draw a distinction between escapism and fantasy, though. And I think if you, no matter what it is, if you end up doing it 24 hours a day, if it's video gaming, if it's drinking, if it's, engaged in furry anything for 24 hours a day, it's not probably healthy. So, moderation for everything.
There's a question in the purple.
I did see for science that for labs or research, do you actually have separate databanks for Anthrocon specifically, or you just do it in general together?
We have lots of data from lots of different projects. So each time we do a project, it's different. So, but you will, if you've participated in more and more plays, or participated somewhere and then you've gone to online, there's a certain core number of questions that you're always going to see.
Okay.
And then they vary from time to time, every other time.
So again, plug for Science participation page. We have study number 2 is something called the For Science Universal Recruitment Project. And that, after all the years of Kathy doing what she's done, I think we've built enough trust with this community that they know that we're not out to, we're not going to do any harm to people in this fandom. And so with that trust built, we've got a database that people are comfortable leaving their names with us, and about 85 identifiers, and they're willing to be contacted for future research. So that's an ongoing database. We've got over 1,500 people in that currently and growing, and we're not planning on closing that down. We come to Anthrocon, we do one study. At Fernal, I was just recruiting into the FURP, as I call it there. Texas A&M, if you go to Texas for Fiesta, Stephen, Dr. Rayson's running that project. So we do different ones in different places, but we run probably 3 to 4 projects a year.
Oh,
We have a lot of data.
Oh, I'll just tell you, the dream thing. 2 Excel, so first place, all the data are there. 2 Excel files, so most of you probably know what I mean by Excel file. So 1 Excel file, each dream is a separate row, has about 600 rows and about 600 columns. So each column is a piece of information, separate piece of information. And the other part of the dream study has about 60 rows and about 800 columns. And all the data are not there yet.
It's a lot of data.
No, it is.
Nuka does all our data entry for all this. So
No, he didn't do that.
No, not for that one, but usually when we send Anthrocon stuff to him, it's 250,000 pieces of information he's putting in.
We overloaded our Google, what's that place in the sky? Dropbox. We overloaded the Dropbox. We had to buy space on the Dropbox. Did you want to?
What's your ultimate goal for this study? And does it have a plan ending the study? Do you have a plan on
There's always new questions. Like if you're a scientist, I think you finish when you croak.
Are you sure about that?
Dr. G started a new field. And so we've
No,
started
that's the same field we're talking
I was
about.
gonna say
No.
green beans.
a new field of
You want to know
research
for everybody.
has endless questions at this point. We're only getting started. I mean, every other field in psychology, most people have had decades and decades and decades of work, and people are still filling the work. You know, think of parenting styles literature. How many papers or dissertations being done on parenting styles? We're just getting started. We haven't scratched the surface yet.
Yeah, and a lot of our questions, a lot of our ideas, hypotheses, actually come from the fandom. They're like, have you done this yet? Ooh, what an interesting idea. Yeah.
So you're just using it based on curiosity then?
Well, I think we bring a lot of our own academic background. So, you know, so for example, I'm intensely curious about how a person becomes a therian, right? So I could take a biological theoretical approach, I could take a cognitive approach. So, you know, I can bring all these theories into play and try and collect data that helps me understand that better.
I'm sure a lot of people consider it to be not just more so a spiritual thing. I'm curious how you find rationalizing some of the can't rationalize in many ways.
What do you mean by rationalizing what?
Like trying to categorize, collecting it on, I guess it's not a difficult question.
Well, I think the answer is we just document what people tell us, and it's sort of dispassionate and objective in that format. So it doesn't have to be rationalized as more as just described and understood in those terms. Really
Yeah,
saying-
so if you look at what I teach my intro to science people, there are basic goals of science. One is to describe. So to a lot of extent, we're still describing. And then predicting and explaining. Those are, you know, so they're different levels.
Within your data set, have you found any sort of trend or well, data in general regarding employment of people who are furry?
All different kinds of jobs. I did, from a very early study, we asked about jobs, and the comparison group was college students. And we asked, you know, kind of what job you had and did you like it? And we found that, you know, because college students tend to take whatever kind of crappy job they can get to get money to buy homes or whatever. The furries like their jobs on average better than the college students like their jobs. So.
A very blue question.
Yeah, she is.
Oh yeah, look at that.
The doctor gave me this. Are you still doing the dream study?
We're still analyzing the data.
Okay.
We're not collecting dreams.
Because I had some walkers last night.
You're here a year too late.
Oh no.
I don't know that one online. Yeah.
I wanted to ask, because I was having a discussion the other night, there's an impression, because the question came up with certain jobs, for example, there's an impression that there's a very high concentration of both STEM type jobs and military people in Japan. Have you noticed that, or is that just
I
an
could
impression?
notice the STEM stuff. I'm not so sure about the military stuff.
Yeah, because we were discussing that, and one of the hypotheses put forth is that since this fandom is very much based on the internet, since the internet began in an academic/military environment, maybe we just see the hangover for that.
That's possible, but if you look at the STEM field in general, there's more guys STEM than there are females.
We think also the connection with science fan fiction is there.
Yeah, furries tend to like fiction. Guys, science. Yeah, great lady.
So, no one else has presented the fact that there are more males in the fandom than females. I might be mistaken, but from your research online that's been posted, aren't there also
They do, and so sometimes they draw things that they don't particularly want to draw because they know they get more money.
Yeah, I've done some interviews with artists, female artists, and that was one of the things, you know, they sometimes will be drawing things that they're not necessarily comfortable with, but it's, you know, it turns out that it's going to be profitable. You know, everybody needs to have credit.
Fabulous.
Yeah. Was that a question from?
Yeah.
I'm just an author on the paper. This is how science works. I don't know anything about it. Yeah, I know I'm an author.
Thank you, Purple Short.
So my question is regarding the definition around the term furry itself. In your studies, have you found like a lot of variation on what people consider furry, like whether they have these certain types of traits?
Oh, that is like such like the $1 million question. So we have been left with a very scientifically unsatisfying definition, which is you're furry if you say that. I think if we tried to, I mean, we have definitions that we use when we write a scientific paper. You know, furry is a person who's keenly interested in anthropomorphic or zoomorphic things, and then we give an example, blah, blah, blah. But when we come here and we say, are you furry, we just, you know, people check yes or no, and if they check yes, then they are.
Excuse me, has anybody actually come to Anthrocon and checked no?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
What are they doing here?
There may be what, about 10% of our survey participants?
Oh, drag.
Yeah.
Okay,
And when we asked people how they know they were furry, there were two routes to becoming furry. One is you just, you know, have this, and you always like the cartoon characters and then you found the fandom and you said, oh, that's where I belong. Right?
And it's a 16 to 17-year-old difference there, which we would love to know what's happening between that year.
And then the other route is the drag by a friend. So, you know, you brought your friend to Anthrocon because that's where you wanted to go, and they got here and they're like, wow, this is great, I love it, I guess I would fit here.
And to the question about how women end up in the fandom, the artist is one thing, but coming in as the partner of one of the heterosexual males is another way, and often, you know, when those relationships dissolve, like young relationships often do, and long ones, they stay. And so I think we're seeing a little bit more increase on that level.
There actually is, and this is very unscientific again, it's anecdotal. There is a fairly large group of older people, my age and thereabout, who originally came into the fandom because their 16-year-old kid wanted to go, and they were not going to let the kid go to the convention by himself. So they were dragged here by the kid, and then they were dragged again when the kid was 17. Now the kid's 18, it's college, they got finals, they can't come, but the parents are still coming to the convention. I've noticed if your reference has noticed it, they actually have identified this growing number of people who started out as chaperones, whose kids are God knows where.
We've seen a lot. I've seen a lot more this year of kind of, you know, 30 to 40-something-year-old people with little kids with them. And so it's going to be interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah, Dr. Rebecca McHugh is working on some of that intergenerational stuff. So I think eventually we'll have a bit more game of time. It's interesting. I love that story.
I'm sure that by now, this fandom has been around for, he has an organized fandom, 30 years or so. I am positive that somewhere out there, even as we speak, there's a child crying, saying, I want to play football. No, you're going to put a fursuit on!
Well, this is why, by the way, this is why sports groups make such an amazing control group, because when we ask what furries love, all kinds of great things, gaming, role playing, all that good stuff, we get to like, what do they hate? One thing. Sports.
That's why we were like confused by the baseball.
So when we do analysis stuff, we don't want people in more than one category, so the sports group makes this perfect group for comparing.
Yeah.
I've been coming here since 2002. 2002.
Robert.
I still do not consider myself to be a furry, even though I have more fursuits than he does.
There you go again.
Because I'm a customer and I love to dress up.
Yeah, that's
so I'm his enabler. buy fabric to make costumes, and you had a question?
Oh, yeah. You're doing the age study. I'm one of those gray muzzles. In my mid-20s, I discovered this stuff in the mid-80s. And is the bell curve of the fandom still staying low? In anime, it's the average age is 17 to 18.
Yeah,
So are
we can't even answer that, and I'll tell you why. There was a guy, Alex Osaka, and he did an online furry study for a long time. He's handed it off to somebody else now. But because he just puts it up online and because he's not doing it through university, he doesn't go through ethics, right? So his survey's open to anybody who feels like doing it. And when I looked at his results a while ago, like a few years ago, I doubt they've changed, 40% of his respondents were 19 and younger.
Right.
So when we have to start at 18 and go up, we know we're missing a lot. So I would feel uncomfortable like answering that question with numbers because we know we don't have a whole bunch of people.
But even the 18-year-old population still is growing. Now, was this fandom's redoing this, as opposed to growing old like my sci-fi?
I mean, we've got data from years and years and years. We can look at the average age of participant over time.
Stay around 21, 22 for our in-con studies, and are a little bit older for the ones that we collect online. But again, everything excluding anything under 18.
It's been around for a very long time, so there's quite a bit of us older generation here.
I think
but
we're
it
getting
still
more of that
stays
in
young.
online studies.
You get a lot of people with questions.
And they're here.
I didn't
They're
know
here
what
to
to
learn.
expect.
We are bubbling
I
fountains of
knew
information.
we had a lot of people because you were going to be here.
Okay, that's the only reason they put my name on it. Because you guys are you know the stuff. Again, I'm just the author. I don't know.
What do you say first?
Yeah, we want to know what he thinks of the research.
What do you think of what's happened over the last 13 weeks?
So the typeface on the paper is very pretty. Okay, what do I think? First off, I will confess, I was skeptical about the research at first because it came about in that era following the back-to-back-to-back whammies of the Vanity Fair article, the HBO Sex and whatever special, CSI. Furries, on the whole, were extremely gun-shy about people asking them questions. They come to the convention to have fun. They're not here to be ridiculed. They're not here to be harangued. And that's what I told her. I said, they're not going to be too keen on answering your questions. We did our best to legitimize it. We gave them the table, made sure everybody knew, yeah, yes, with us, it's okay. So I am pleased that the study is getting a larger sample set. I still worry that, and again, you guys know how this stuff works, I still worry that we still are seeing a skewed result because there is a section of this population that still might be worried, does not want to take the survey.
Yeah. And that's, you know, I mean, we always describe our sample and how we got it. And anybody that can read critically can say, well, then a whole bunch of people didn't participate. So we passed out almost 2,000 surveys, and we'll get about half of them back. So, you know, what were those other 1,000 people? They were too busy, they couldn't be bothered, they hated the questions, they, you know, I mean, we don't know the answer to that. We just, all we can do is acknowledge that, yeah, how it works.
I will add, though, that it was a stroke of genius to give people colorful ribbons.
Oh, okay.
Because that was like, oh yeah, I want a ribbon, I'll take your survey.
Okay. So, where did the ribbons come from? So, in 2007, there was an identity conference that was going to be held outside of Washington, D.C. And I said, well, that's not that far from where I live. So I think I'll go. And I submitted a poster about, you know, the furry stuff. And I said, you were living near Philadelphia at the time. So I said, so would you like to go too? And he was busy, but he volunteered his friends.
And they had fun.
Yeah, yeah. So I got connected with two of the board of director members who happen to live near DC. And I, you know, before we got into the conference, I said, you know, I could take you guys out to dinner, and you could tell me how to do this better. you know? And they said, tell them about the ribbons. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. And they were like, yeah, ribbons. People really like ribbons. They have prizes. I'm like, what prizes? Ribbons. And because I was thinking, you know, we got for people cars or gifts. Anyway, they're like, no, people need a badge. Because remember, I couldn't go the first year. So I had seen people get a badge, and they like to tape ribbons to it. And I thought, whoa, hey, ribbons I could probably afford. Because for a long time, this research came out of my pocket, basically. And so I found this amazing ribbon, which I could buy like by 100-yard rolls. Yeah, and they don't make it anymore, which is really sad. So that's what we started with the ribbons, and then as kind of things went along, I don't remember exactly when this happened, I thought, I will donate, and I do have, for years and years now, for every survey we get back, for every participant from our other activities, I donate money out of my own little pocket to whatever the con charity is. And I've actually heard people say, I did this survey because I want you to have to give a dime to, you know, whoever. So, you know, totally those two guys, and I don't know if they want me to name those, so I won't. I know who they are, don't tell me.
We'll leave them, you know, anonymous. Right?
Yeah, okay. It's better that way. They're wonderful. I still see them every year. We're happy to see each other, hug, etc. So, I mean, a lot of the credit really goes to them being willing to, you know, be supportive and make important suggestions.
Now, on the other end of it, when it gets to the ethics board, you know, how are you going to give your remuneration to your participants? Look, we're going to give them a ribbon. We're doing a 30-minute survey? Yeah. Really? Yeah.
What would work better is if you found a blinky thing. You give out blinky things and they'll just be flying to your team.
We have the orange pencils that change to yellow if you're hot when you're holding them. They're pretty popular. We're just giving them away for free.
Our swaggy stuff, see?
Oh, and there's some in there for you.
Yes.
Oh, what is there? Is there anything in?
There's stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you can get one of those on the spinning wheel.
See, this is what happens. This is what happens when you get funding.
Yeah. Are you hot?
I'm going to find out.
Okay. Let go.
Oh, yeah, I'm hot.
I didn't get there in time next year. I took it on with me.
Gray t-shirt.
So since furry is really hard to define, are you worried that it's too much of an aggregate, and have you noticed in your data points that there's clusters of similar people based on data points? Like, have you tried with like Amy's cluster, you see like
Oh, like different kinds of furries.
Yeah, so have you tried narrowing it down in the fandom a column of people that is defined to see if it relates to other types?
That's what the FurP is going to be for, is isolating various groups. I mean, when you come to a convention and you're handing out a couple thousand surveys, it's hard to target specific people, and now that you get the data and you can do different kinds of analysis, but what we were planning on doing with the FurP is, as we get very specific questions, saying, okay, we want to study like gray muzzles, now I have 150 identified, I can do a specific study on that, and then control it. We'll do more of that kind of thing when we, with the FurP.
The other answer to that is there are so many variables that are interrelated. So, you know, like I said, I'm really interested in therians and other kin. So a few years ago, that was one of the kind of things we were trying to look at. And so we're like, okay, so we have 1,000 participants. How many people said they were therian? I'm making the number up. Let's say 100. It's more like 70 probably. But anyway, they're like, okay, great. Analyze those 70 people. I'm like, time out. 100 people. 10 said they were therian and brony, and another 10 said they were therian and other kin, and another 15 said they were this and that. And then, like, do I call them therian? I can't put those people in a pot together. That was, you know, very distasteful to me. So it's hard to do what you're suggesting. It's important, but it's hard. Because you got to have a big number.
You try instead of focusing on like a survey or something, just look at the clusters and then work backwards to see.
I'm trying a little bit of that this year. we're asking some questions some different ways, and we're doing the gender stuff some different ways too. Yeah.
So you'll notice in our study, if you've done them, we've asked gender the way we've typically asked it before, and then another way, and then we've said, if you had to put yourself in a single category, which one would you put yourself in? And the reason is that we've got previous studies that there's just so much overlap, and we want to be able to redo some of that work and go back and redo that analysis and have a better handle on if someone had checked off 2 or 3 categories, how they would classify themselves, see if we can find some good trends to use based on data.
How about the orange plaid shirt?
Since you guys have done studies year after year, and you've done so many thus far, have you gone back and done a meta-analysis of the collection of your studies, or?
Graduate student.
Are you volunteering? Are you volunteering?
He's laughing.
Well, I didn't go into social science. I was a biology teacher.
No, that's a cool idea.
Yeah, we've got a lot of data.
We got more than we can look at. What about that kind of reddish shirt? Yeah.
So you've been doing this for several years. Have you noticed any significant changes, maybe ones that are surprising, and you think it's more due to us as a community changing, or because maybe we're more willing to take the surveys?
Yeah, how would you pull that?
The thing that stands out to me is transgender identity. That's just really had an increase. And what was fascinating to me last year when I was here recruiting into the FURP, I came across people in line and I said, would you like to be part of the First Science Universal Improvement Project? And they said, well, I'm not a furry. And I said, well, that's okay. And they said, well, we're here because, and these were people who were transgender women. They said, well, we're here just because people are really nice here. And we can just be happy here. And I thought that said a lot to me. I know that's an anecdotal thing, but it really seems it's really
I've been coming here since 2007. And I come like the first day kind of a deal and stay till, Sunday afternoon late. And I've only had one bad experience. And it was this snot-ass kid who said he wanted to talk to me, and we made a plan to meet, and I was there and he wasn't, which was okay. I can always amuse myself. But then he went around telling people I stood him up. That pissed me off a lot. And then he started picking on my research assistant. I don't know the kid's name. He probably doesn't come back. I will. But I mean, I literally one day I left my badge in the hotel room, right? And I got down to going down the main floor in Weston, and I was supposed to go with one of my assistants to the art reception, and I stepped off the elevator and I said, oh crap, I left my badge upstairs. And I was going to turn around and get back on the elevator, but can't do that because, you got to get in line. And I'm like, oh shit, this kid's going to think I was abducted by an alien. And so this person in a fursuit, because if you're in a fursuit and you need to get on the elevator, you have a handler. So this person in a fursuit just grabbed my elbow and took me on the elevator. Now I am being abducted. And then I realized this person saw my predicament and was just helping me to get back onto the elevator because they rode up like one floor with me, got off, and sent me on my way. So, I mean, that was awesome. So, if you can think about your life and doing going to work, going to school, whatever, and if you've only had one bad experience, that's pretty darn good. Yeah.
Start with generally the tiger tail.
There you go.
Earlier was mentioned that has there been any relation to the length of time someone has been in the fandom?
It's the connection to the fandom. More than the length of time, how connected do you feel to the fandom? So we asked both questions, but it seems to be that one. I want to know what you think of all the weird media stuff that we're doing these days.
Define weird.
Oh, I think weird is how I describe myself for everything. So it's to me that's a positive. I mean, like the Just Like You campaign, which was an anti-stigma campaign.
Oh, now those are very, very nice campaigns. Very, very happy. The fact that you do have good science behind it, it has that air of legitimacy to it, and that's something that we've been trying very, very hard to emphasize. As you established, we are not crazy. We are individuals who just happen to like having fun. And you stated this little story with the first story. This is something that I found myself saying more often than I can count over the years when people say, oh my gosh, I saw this amazing thing, and I just think that's what furries do. That's our hallmark, that's us. And the fact that we now have, it's coming from a different direction, from an academic direction, makes it a little bit easier, I think, for the rest of us to say, hey, look, we're not just this little island of weirdness over here. There's actual sciencey people over here with letters in front of them after their names and stuff.
Well, I mean, we realize, I think media bruised is one of the ways that I would describe the community. I think they've had a terrible history of being exploited and misunderstood. One of the things that we want to do as For Science is send them to us. If you encounter the haters, just send them to us. Send them to the website, the media people that want to do interviews. We're happy to beat them down with science. I did that with Jenny McCarthy, by the way. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you. It was a Sirius XM interview, and she started off, pardon the language, excuse me for just a second, but I was on the phone and I heard her say, oh, they're a fucking .com. That was the first thing she said. I went, and then she starts off with, this is a sex thing, right? That's where we started with the interview. I went, okay, here we go. And by the end of 22 minutes, she said, I'm so glad I talked to you. I've completely changed, basically she said, I completely changed my mind on this. This is great, because her kid, I think, is probably a furry, to be honest. And she said, I feel so much better. Will you marry my son? And so actually, if you want to hear that interview, you can hear it on the For Science webpage. We got permission from the Sirius XM to post it.
It's about 10 years ago. I can't remember who it was in the ladies program, and she did the exact same thing, and I did my best to keep on track. Yes, but tell us, you guys are sex engineers. First off, and she just would not relent. And I paused a moment and I said, "Miss, I hope you're not offended if I say so, but you seem to have a very unhealthy fixation with sex. Have you thought about talking about that?" And there was this very long pause, and she said, "Oh, wait, well, thank you for that. This has been Dr. Samuel Conley."
That's great. For me, I've found that one of the best ways to change people's minds is to say, well, I understand why the public has this misconception, because, you know, media and screenwriters' imaginations have taken incredible liberties with the way that they've presented furries because it sells. But when you look at the data, and we have the data and science in our back pocket, this is the reality. And I find that that's trying to validate why someone's wrong first, and then changing that nature of that conversation has been, for me at least, an effective way of getting the facts to someone and getting them to listen. Because people don't want to be wrong.
Since we're all been talking about like surveys and us taking it, for you, Uncle Kage, have you taken any?
I have.
How many are all?
I took one the first year, and at some point, a couple of years later, when I realized the gene significantly, I took the second. The difficulty I have is that every time I start walking in the direction of the table, this thing makes noise. And quite frankly, there are times when I actually never get to the table to say hi to these wonderful folks here. In fact, I was not actually aware that I was doing this panel until somebody stopped me on the way to operations about 10 minutes before. I would have been very embarrassed.
Yeah. There's a lot of questions. Dr. Roberts has to be in the hotel for a 4 o'clock thing. So we can, spend a few more minutes if Dr. Conley still wants to, but we have a thing at 7:30 tonight, is it here?
It's in this room, yes.
Yeah, and so we can do a lot more questions at 7:30. I'm happy to hang out for a little bit, there's probably something else coming in here.
I have a full presentation, but if people just want to just do this, we can just do this. And just
Yeah,
answer the
7:30.
questions. So whatever works.
Oh, we're competing with them with hockey hours.
Oh, he's getting story hours.
That's 7:30.
I'll try to be boring for the first half hour. Professional courtesy. Let's see, where are we? Oh, lecture hall.
Okay, there's nothing in this room now, so if you want to hang out.
Silver Gattoman, he bought me a coffee. Silver Gattoman, here is the song for thee. He likes to video all the panels at the cons. You should go and watch them whether they are short or long. Silver Gattoman, you video that's not a jibe. All of you go to his YouTube channel and like and subscribe.